I did see something about the third party something.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Okay.
Yeah, being sent to a third party or something other.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that, but I ain't see that as recording for being streamed or whatever it is.
Um, okay, it's saying it's live right now. Okay, I think it's live. I just need somebody to do something. Let me see if it
Sure.
hold on.
Yeah, top of my screen say live too.
Oh, your screen does say live?
Mm-hmm. The top left corner says live. I don't know when it got
Okay,
there though.
we're live. I just saw my hand move. It's a delayed reaction. So go ahead and proceed.
Okay, so I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, March 12th, 2025 Akron Public Art Commission meeting to order. So we're going to take a roll call of the commissioners. I don't think everyone's here yet, but I think we have enough people to start going through. So you just say here if I say your name. Uh, Eric Reynolds,
Here.
Jessica Travis,
Here.
Megan DeLong,
Here.
Larissa Brown.
Here.
Right. Roberta Rogers is absent. Uh, John Fume is also absent. Um, who else do we have? So Stephanie
Andy,
Leonardi.
real
Yeah.
quick, sorry to interrupt. You all received, we didn't have our meeting last month, but you all received an email from Stephanie Leonardi stepping down. She's taken another role. And she couldn't continue to fit this in her capacity. So we do want to wish her well. We do want to thank her for her leadership and being a part of the commission. And one day she might find her way back here. If not, I look forward to her doing great things in the future.
Yep. Yeah. So Stephanie also will not be here for that reason. And so that's pretty much everyone at this point. As Summer said, we'll have two new commissioners potentially next month. So excited to meet whoever's coming on and getting more info about those folks. So yeah, so the meeting's the order. So if we're looking at the agenda, the first thing would be the approval of minutes from January 2025, but we don't have meeting minutes looking back at that document. So we're just going to go ahead and move on. We can ask John about that later or where we're at with those things. And then I know that we have Mac and Elise here from ArtX Love. I know that they want to present related to closing out the public art inventory project. Something we got in the mail from Summer, I believe today, was a contract from ArtX Love from Mac and Elise about costs uh, that are related to maintenance of the public art database on an ongoing basis. I think that there was three tier levels to that. The most basic one was around 18K. Remember, if you look at the document that I sent out in January that had the proposal work plan in it, that we have $19,000 left in terms of the prior year balance. I don't think we have all of that either. I don't remember exactly what we'd spent some of the funds on. So maybe we could ask Summer about that. But something we want to talk about, and that Eric even brought up when we met with the mayor today, was something Eric brought up when we were talking to the mayor today too, is we might not want to exclusively, contract one person. So it might be something we have an RFP for, it's something we need to generally talk about and look at funding before I think we jump into. So maybe we could talk about that moving forward. But it'd be great if everyone could take a look at that. If you haven't already, it should be in your email and think about the costs and how we might have funding moving forward to be able to pay for these things. Maybe it'd be something for the city to look into paying for as well, not necessarily something coming from the commission funding, since it might be something more related to like maintaining like an ongoing GIS program the city is just like willing to adopt officially. Yeah, so Summer, do we want to invite Mac and Elise in to present? Okay.
Have to find where they are.
All right, looks like we have Mac and Elise in. Hi
Hi,
guys, how's it going?
hi everybody. Good to see you.
So, welcome to the meeting. We just brought you on to present as you had emailed us about. So thank you for your time and joining. We're all here to listen.
Of course. Thanks so much. Well, as you all know, we have been working diligently on our public art inventory for the city-owned, city access public art in Akron. It has morphed into a being in and of itself over the last year. I think when we first started this project, we thought we'd have like 200 pieces and we have over 700. So that's super exciting for Akron. It's super exciting for your team to figure out where you go from here in terms of maintenance, in terms of prioritization, in terms of looking at distribution of public art as you're approving things from the people of Akron. So yeah, we're really excited to show you some options in terms of what you can put onto your website in public facing data, and then the data that you have access to as commissioners. We're just going to talk through some options here so that we can finalize our report, send them to you. And just one note about some emails that we had sent a little while ago about potentially having training. I think what makes the most sense for us is to make it a document that you can reference. So based on our conversation and your decisions today, we will put that together, but we are always here to answer your questions or talk you through anything you need in terms of what you're looking at from a pure data standpoint and what you want to show to Akronites at large on your website. So what did I miss, Mac? Is that good?
I think you got most of everything there. Just to add on to the note that Elise meant about the training, in talking with the IT and GIS department, all of this data is going to live internally at the city, and they're going to be the ones who will have the editing capacity to make changes to all of the data and to update it. If you were to have an intern or you yourselves wanted to, you would have to go through their own system and have your own administrative login and everything to do it. For that reason, we didn't think it would make too much sense necessarily to train everybody on that, because it can be granular and it can be really foreign territory and deeply time consuming. We're talking like rabbit hole galore for people who aren't familiar with using this kind of technology. However, that said, Andy, other members of the commission, if you wanted to, you could certainly collaborate with the IT and GIS department to get more knowledge on that. But beyond that being said, we have drafted our report. It's still in the kind of final stages, but we've drafted it to include our methodology. So hypothetically, if someone was to be contracted in the future to update the inventory or to add things to it, they would understand all of the terminology, all the evaluation criteria, and kind of what all the symbols and everything mean when they navigate through the application. So that's something I actually wanted to show you. And I don't know, do you think I should put a link in the chat too? Let them do some of it on their own? No?
No, everyone will get distracted. Don't do it.
Okay.
That's like showing the client the presentation before the meeting and then watching them flip through it on their own before you. No, we'll do that later, promise.
Okay. We will send a follow-up email. It will have the report and the link to use the interactive app. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Here we go. Okay. Hopefully you all can see this right here. So as you may recall from, I think our last time we got together was in December. Yeah. So as you may recall from our last meeting in December, we were looking at a few different options on ways to display the information. And after kind of going through some of it ourselves in terms of what we thought might be most useful for you, and also for the public, we arrived at, we can still do the story map, and we've been doing that, but we also thought doing a custom built application might be a little bit more user-friendly, particularly in terms of the layout of the space. And so what you are looking at right here is the featured items from the inventory. So we picked 5 items from every single ward, and they're displayed with the wards colored on there. And so what this starts off as, basically, this is an embeddable application. You can put this directly in your website. You can change the way its size and fits within the screen. But essentially, anyone who goes to your website could go ahead and navigate through this. And if this was what you would start off with, it would allow them to go through and to zoom in on any of the featured sites and elements. If they were to click on one of these, they would get additional information plus more photos about it. Now, this could be curated to show more or less, depending, because this right now shows everything. But one of the things that we wanted to share on this was this feature over here, because what I'm showing you right now was what we actually want to give you internally as a public art commission as a reference point, something that is user-friendly and it shows you all of the data. So over here on the side, and let me tell you, when we share this link with you, you can't break this. So the buttons that you press, you can't make any permanent changes. Everything will live internally on it. So you see over here, this thing that looks like a filter. Basically, you can sort things. Right now, it's all of the 50 featured pieces that we've curated for the public art map. However, if we were to turn that off, it does feature everything as well. Now, if you wanted to just look at all sculptures in Akron, you would have an easily sortable map to look at it. There are more sculptures in Akron than almost anything else. If you wanted to look at murals in Akron, you would have the location of all of the murals that have been inventoried. But let's say you wanted to look at murals that are in poor condition. You can use this filter to basically click 2 different categories. You can sort these things accordingly and see any of these in more detail. So this mural, it was listed in poor condition. We do have some of the creative team members' names. Condition type, it was a little faded, vandalized, and scraped. All of the photos are accessible to you here. So you can scroll through, go to the detailed pictures. I believe there may be 10 or 12 others here, but you'd be able to go through, let's see here, and see exactly what we're talking about when we're saying vandalism. If it's graffiti, in this case, this was a part of a mirror that's starting to separate from the wall. A few of those different elements there. So the reason why we wanted to show you this is because the basic idea that we're working with here is that your public art map, we can curate this as an interactive app for the public on your website. We can remove the filter options to the public to show what is in, excellent condition or what is in poor condition. I know that that's mainly for internal use only, but this is a way to allow people to easily navigate the kind of 50 elements. Alternatively, for the public-facing side, if you would like, we can have it instead of just being the type of art, we can have it just by ward. So if they wanted to click and see what was just in Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3. But that's a question I have for you right now as we look to kind of come into the home stretch on this and finish this. Is the desire to have the data organized by ward? Is that something that you think would benefit the public on your website as a priority, or is that something you would like to be able to do for reporting sakes, say to each City of Akron council member?
Mac, I think what would be useful, just from my personal opinion, for us as commissioners, we want to be able to use the public art database. One of its original intentions was to be used to provide a more equitable process for geographic distribution of art into the different wards and communities. Something that's going to be really useful and help fulfill the original intent of the public art database is getting things like a count of the quality, type, and condition of different pieces of art in the different wards. That way, us as a commission, when we're looking at selection of new projects and where to put them, things that are maybe not necessarily proposed for a specific or special location by individual people, but projects where we could distribute things through different areas, similar to the traffic box wrap project that we recently did. We're looking at where to place art. It'd be nice to have analytics or summary statistics that kind of aggregate the count, condition, etc., of different types of pieces of public art per ward as a report. And now that doesn't necessarily need to be something that someone who's coming to our website and sifting through the database needs to be able to see. So, like, it would be very cool if someone could see the art just in their ward. So, if you were able to add a filter, like, it looks like you have the shape boundaries, right? I know ArcGIS is capable of filtering the points per shape boundary. It'd be really cool if somebody could filter by ward, or if they could just click on a ward and then see all the points within that. But I think that's less useful than it would be to us specifically as a commission using the database in terms of like decision making and decisioning, as opposed to like someone coming and looking at this for fun or to use it as an application or for educational purposes. I was curious if anyone else has any comments on it. Megan,
Yeah, hey,
Larissa,
Mac.
yeah.
Mac, Eric Reynolds talking. I like the option of by the ward for public and for our use. What we all have to remember is not everyone's intelligent, and I say that with a grain of salt. Computer wise, they're not very agile and clicking, and pictures speak 1,000 words, right? So one click of a button and they can through their ward and they can see all the artwork in their ward would be very beneficial to, I want to say 50% of those who might get on there. Me being an engineer, I'm gonna dive down into the weeds. But other people may not, right? So, but the option to give them that is where it's at, right? So that's where I stand with it.
That's great to hear, and we can certainly add in the ward filters. I think that makes sense certainly for the public and the private side, but also I think, Eric, to the point you were making too, what we wanted to do was separate the data in the report from what might live on the website. And so I can share with you some of the aspects of the report so you can just see a little bit, get a glimpse of how it's being constructed right now. Because we have our report set up so it actually captures and shares all the data as an aggregate, but also is organized by ward so that you can see by each ward where there's the greatest distribution of artwork, what is the type of artwork that is in each ward, like what type is most prevalent, and also what the condition needs are, not just for the city as a whole when it comes to public art, but within each ward. That being said, let me, oh, go ahead.
So are you saying you're trying to figure out what filters that you want for the public to see versus the commission? Is that what you're looking for, Mac?
Yes, that was what I was asking for feedback for at this point. I've heard both, that you would like to have a filter for wards.
I think the wards would be something for both. If you click on that filter again, because I'm thinking for the conditions, I don't think we should have that on there for everyone to see, like what says damaged conditions or poor conditions and neutral conditions. Those things I wouldn't probably want to put on there. I would say the number of paintings per ward to be able to filter by ward, because then if they wanted to do, if we wanted to do grants, because that's one of the things that they're looking for, how many pieces of public art is in that area. They can do grants based on that area because that's a piece of data that they don't have to go around and try to collect. It'll be there. But the condition, that would be something that if they need that, they will come to the commission. I don't think we would need to put that up to the public. Only because that'll get a little sticky. Like, okay, we got these many in our ward, but all of them are in poor condition. So we have to be careful what we put out there and making sure that we're not adding more attention to what we already have, but making sure that as we do that as a commission, we'll look at that as a group and say, okay, what can we do to help sustain those areas or do some maintenance in those areas to make sure that
100% agree. 100% agree.
Well,
I definitely agree with that. Larissa. Great point about the conditions. Also, I would say wards also, one thing, there's been a study stating that neighborhoods that have a lot of art has less crime, and it also gets senior citizens and some of our older people or just the neighborhood to get out and walk around. So going to this website to find art in my ward, specific to my ward, will then say, oh, that's right around the corner. I'll walk there, right? So that's creating healthy steps, helping with mental health. So this really can tackle so many different aspects of life for our residents.
One question for everyone on in terms of the type of art. So we can add, like currently right now, it is sortable by the type of art that is in it, and we can set it so you can click on this and say pick just the sculpture that is in Ward 1 or Ward 2 just by clicking the ward and the type of art. However, something I wanted to point out was that if we do that and we show all of the art that is in the city of Akron, you know, like the number of pieces, I just want to let you know that there isn't really a clean way for us to visualize this for the public without including art that is in poor condition or art that is damaged. You know, we could try to exclude that, but if we were, then we'd be creating a false representation in the landscape of where the art is, because you know, a mural maybe that had been damaged or vandalized is still a mural in the public space. Does that make sense in kind
Sure,
of?
Mac. Yeah. And I think that what's going to end up happening is, people will be able to pull that data down from the city because it's public data and it should be available to them. But for a public facing map, I think we can let people make their own assessments based off the photos, et cetera, of the condition of the art, for one. Two, if it's being used for studies and stuff, we don't need to pull down literally every type of the piece of data that you tracked from the data model you created. I think leaving the types of art makes sense. People can filter down to that. But I think it comes down to you know, what looks best in terms of promoting public art for the city. So you have to remember one of the missions of the Public Art Commission. We're not trying to like hide that there's public art that needs to be, fixed. But the commission's goal is to use funding, taking funding and applying it towards maintenance for those things, right? So we want to go fix those things. We also want to present Akron's best and bring more people into Akron. So we want to show the best of what Akron has to offer. Some of that stuff that's poor condition, like Nathan Mayfield's mural, for example, there might be vandalism to that, et cetera. I know because I drive by that every day, and I knew Nathan Mayfield. I remember when he was painting that mural. You don't see a ton of vandalism necessarily to that mural as you're driving by. We don't want to, we don't want to necessarily say XYZ is in poor condition. We can just let people view what exists without having to put these kinds of labels on it and put some sort of like negative spin on it when we're trying to bring people into the city. But then for the purpose of research and how we apply funding and how we do maintenance, we can still take all those things into consideration and still use that data while presenting it in the best way, I think.
So just to clarify, so you would rather have you for the piece of the map that is going to be embedded into your public facing website, you would like to have all of the data included in there. I just want to make sure I understand.
I think that would be fine. I like how you have it
Like
now.
all the
And
pieces.
Eric can speak on this too, and Larissa
Yeah.
and Megan, but I like how you have the featured button and it's defaulted to the featured button.
Yes.
That way
Okay.
someone could go through. The other thing I'll say though is that you have the 3 sets of filters, and Eric brought this up, that a lot of people might not understand that there's 3 sets of filters and then you have to check multiple of them. For example, if you click sculpture and mural, it's probably looking to select records that have both of those, so it might select none if you click both. Then you have to go down and select the ward. People are almost certainly going to click and like not be able to use this the right way. So I'd be very interested in seeing, and maybe I could help with this if it's necessary, if there's an option to split these out into 3 unique kinds of filters. So someone could select the ward separately from selecting the type, and then like another box for checking on and off featured. That way it's not one giant list of filters, because I could just tell from watching the demo that people are going to get confused by how to apply the filters in this list if you just add the wards to the list. It's my opinion. I think Eric
Is
had a
it
comment.
is it possible to have, I don't want to add to this, but to have a separate filter for the ward?
Yes, it is. I do think that some of the dilemma that Andy is talking about, though, even if we set up multiple filters, we still might end up creating a little bit of a kind of like, maze for users
Yeah.
at the start, because if it's very easy sometimes to check something and forget what you've checked. And kind of like Andy was saying, like if I was to check sculpture and mural, all the art disappears. So to try to remember what is what. So right now featured is clicked. So it's only showing of the top 50 that we've selected, the murals from that top 50. We
So
did set
tell
it
me
up.
this, Mac.
Mhm.
If you uncheck the feature and check sculpture and mural, what appears?
It'll be nothing again.
Nothing. Okay. Yeah, we'll
Because
have
basically
to talk about that.
something that we can do with the app, which I think is a great way to bypass some of this user challenge, is to have a opening screen that explains to people a little bit of how to use the application. This tends to typically be like a text-based window that pops up right at the start, but that instructs people to use the filter to sort by the type of category of art or combination of categories that they would like to navigate through the inventory with.
Sure.
Mac,
Yeah, I think that the issues that we have, like the logic behind it is like it's using and instead of or, right? So if we did mural or memorial, then it would bring up all of them. But right now it's doing mural and memorial, but no individual record for a piece of art's going to have both. So I don't know if there's a way in the filter to make it all and logic instead of or logic, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
we could definitely look into that.
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. This is amazing, by the way. I'm just gonna say that right now. And Andy, I take back what I told you earlier.
About that.
Yeah, I'm not saying, you know what I'm talking about.
I think I do, which is actually hilarious. But
Yeah, yeah, this is amazing. So thank you,
Thanks, Eric.
Elisa Mack. I truly appreciate that.
Hey, if it's okay with you, unless anyone has questions about the app, I wanted to take you into the report just very briefly, just so you can get a little look at how we're kind of constructing it.
Oh, wait, Matt, one thing. Do we all agree that let's go back to I'm a fanatic about answering one question at a time. Mac, did we all agree that for the public, we're going to remove the conditions?
I think
Is that
I think most of us are on board with that, right? It's me, you, Larissa. I mean, Megan, what's your thoughts on that? And I see Roberta's here now too. Welcome, Roberta. What's your opinion on that, Megan, Roberta?
I I don't really have a preference. I honestly think that this might be a lot for just
I
like the
agree.
general public.
Yeah.
So I like, to be honest, I think less is more in this case, but I think that's, a yes to your question.
Okay.
I don't think you should tell them the condition of it, especially if it needs repairs or part of it's damaged. General public don't need to know that we're working on repairing it or something like that.
Yeah, so there we go, Mac. Okay, your question's answered on that, so we can move forward.
Okay. Excellent.
On that note, too,
I have a quick
yeah,
question.
go ahead, Summer.
With that being said, if we're not putting conditions on the website with this map, there could be something on the website to state, if you see any vandalism or anything like that, you can send an email, to my email address or the Public Arts email address. That way the
That's
community can then communicate with the Public Arts Commission, because there are eyes, right? So everything that you did, Mac, you did that pretty much like last year and this year. But down the line, this summer, next year, whatever, things could be different, right? And then we can also update the website saying, hey, this mural or whatever is being repaired. Stop by and, see the new work or the new landscape or whatever it is. Also, my second question is, when you say app, are we talking about just the app on the website, or are we talking about an app on people's phones?
Not an app on your phone, an app that
Okay,
you
I
can
said, what are
embed
we
into the
saying here?
website.
So
You're
I
like,
need
no,
more
no, no.
clarity. Okay.
Yeah, Summer, it's embeddable. So these
Yeah.
maps, see this little square here? It'll come with it'll be like an HTML snippet with it'll have a reference out to the code that basically goes to ArcGIS Online, and you basically paste it into the website. If we have like a low code editor website, you just paste the code in, and it'll just pop up magically on the site wherever we want to put it on whichever page.
Okay.
Yes, no
Magical.
application on your phone. I will say, Summer, I really like the idea of including a link to like
Yep.
report something, but I think you can spin it to not just be about vandalism. Like, for example, yesterday or last week, I was driving past Forest Hill Park and I saw a new piece of artwork there, and I immediately called Mac, did we inventory it? Because it was not there when we inventoried Forest Hill Park.
Okay.
So it could be something like, do you see a new piece of art? Do you see something that needs our attention? I think there's a way
Agreed.
to like spin that a little bit to be positive and negative. Like, yes, we want you to be our eyes, but it's not just for the bad stuff.
Right.
Agreed.
That's amazing. That's great.
I got one question for you guys. Is it any way that you can just put a number on that map so you can show the number of the ward?
Which ward?
Yes, because look, I've been in Ohio a long time, but I had to pull up on Google to figure out where my ward was.
Larissa, you are not alone. I have done more ward work this year than I have ever done as an almost lifelong Akronite, and I still get confused. So that's something that Mac and I have already talked about. Yes.
So if you can just
You
put the
guys
number
have that
there,
word,
it'd be great.
right?
Yeah, or at
So
least like what are they called? A legend that
A legend,
says
right, okay.
purple equals 2 or whatever it is. Yeah.
That'd be great. Either way.
Yeah.
You
Larissa,
still
don't
have
feel
this
bad
word
because
legend.
remember at the beginning of this, I argued what ward I lived in with Summer. If you remember that, that was live. That was live,
For that. And I
recorded.
kept saying, you live in 8. You're like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
you do.
We just it's a learning experience for all of us.
Wait,
I
did you
love
ever
it.
I
figure
don't
it
do
out?
any art, so I'm a math person, but that's okay. I can do numbers. I can do that.
Yeah.
Yes, Andy, I'm in 8, buddy.
8's a great place to be. 8's where we are too, Eric. So we appreciate our
All right.
neighbors.
All right,
I
yeah,
have
Mac, you want to share the room? Oh, go ahead.
I do. I
Yeah.
had one more question though, just in terms of
Oh,
like
okay.
the usability of this. Something else that we could do is we could have the kind of curated map embedded on your website, so it's contained to those 50 pieces, and also sortable by ward and by type. But if for the full set, we could have that could be a link that is just under that embedded map to explore the complete inventory, and that could just take you offsite to just the full map, where you could search through all 725 items. Is that something that would
Yeah.
appeal to
I
you,
think
you think?
I mean, works either way. In my head, if you have that default filter on that says featured, I think it's going to do the same thing. I don't think people are going to go in, and click on and off. My vote would be that you just leave all the functionality the way that you kind of have it here on, but then we need to consider how many filters there are. And like Eric said, the amount of button clicks and where you click is going to be pretty important. And then teaching people where to click and making it the lowest amount as possible. And things like the and conditions on the filter instead of the or that are going to be counterintuitive for the users. Like, however we improve the user experience, that's going to be a big thing. And maybe that also comes back to what I was going to say, but I've walked by your guys' new studio like 30 times since you moved, and I was curious about it, so I have to stop in anyways. But I'd be interested in stopping in for a half hour and looking at the map with you guys and giving some feedback and seeing if there's any ways I can help update it too, if you're interested with that. But
Yeah, you're all welcome to stop by anytime you want. We're here typically 10 to 4 on weekdays, and we're at 35 South Main Street.
Awesome.
Or
One
come
other-
out for art walk tomorrow.
Oh, one other quick question. So will there be an opportunity for you to add all of the 700 pieces on there? Can it be like an all button where all the art will go? Because if we're just showcasing 50, eventually, somebody's going to ask, where is Eventually
Nice.
somebody, okay, say hi everyone. This is Layla.
Hi,
Hey, Layla.
Layla.
Hey, Layla.
Working late tonight. So, but someone eventually is going to want to see all the art. So I would like to, give that ability to someone that wants to see all the art versus just 50 pieces. And then far as if we're featuring only 50, are you guys going to come back 6 months and update 50 more?
Well, so that's what the next thing I was going to say is you can always, this could be something the commission does on a yearly basis. Like you pick a new 50, including things that you've done new. You can take from the inventory of the full list. That's something that you guys can decide. We are happy to come back and adjust it. These are our recommendations based on 5 in each ward. We wanted to make the featured very even around them. We wanted to have murals. We will have some collections. We have some art that's in the community centers. But that's something that you guys can decide how often you update, because I think that's a great idea is like, here's our 50 for 2026. Go check out, did you make it through the list of 2025's kind of a thing. You could make it a little challenge.
Yeah, or like take this tour of sculptures across Akron, or a mural tour. But I think to answer Summer's question, and I think Andy and Eric, you all spoke to this pretty well too, that I think having the default as the featured is a good way to set it up and keep it manageable for people. But all they have to do is to unclick the featured, and then they'll have access to all the data.
I want to be cognizant of time, so let's pull up the report and take you through. I don't know what time we started, so I just don't want to overstep our time.
But we don't really have other things on the agenda, so if you needed more
Oh,
time.
perfect. So we can just chitty chat.
Okay, so here's the report. It is still being finalized here, so it doesn't contain necessarily the specific insights and priorities to the level of detail that we would like to. I'll skip past the intro and the contents because literally it keeps growing, because as we go, we keep on finding more information, like in insights that we can share and embed, and I'll show you an example or two of that. But what this does do is it takes you through the methodology and the categories. So exactly like what qualifies as a certain type of art. Something that we discussed in this, you may be familiar with, say, some of the signage that's over in West Hill. There's some kind of wayfinding signage there that I think was done by Puzzle Creative Solutions a while back. There's, a kind of question we have of whether or not that qualifies as art, since it's a custom-made, one-of-a-kind piece. And so for the time being, we have it in there as architecture because it is a 3D designed and constructed building or structure. But certainly we can filter those out or remove it. But this takes you through basically within the survey, the categories that we use to evaluate everything. Let's see. It also discusses what parameters we used to discuss the condition of the artwork. So damaged in this case would be exhibiting a significant degree of distress, alteration, or deterioration caused by accident, environmental factors, intentional vandalism, or exposure. Damaged work should be prioritized for review, repair, or deassessment. I know we've been talking about this ongoing, but our hope is that this document can serve as a reference point for future commissioners as well in interpreting this. Hence us wanting to put the training in the back end of this as well. In terms of the aggregate data too, what we have is a complete overview of the data and insights here. I apologize for some of my view here in InDesign. I've got that blue line is not in the report there. But basically there's 725 total records. It's in a pretty eclectic mix of things that we have. We have more sculpture within the inventory than anything else, representing 22.9% of all public art and cultural assets inventoried. And you can see here it's kind of organized by the number of pieces. You may recall when we first started this off, we organized some things by other when we weren't sure how or what to classify them as. As you may recall, in December, we added the category collection to represent kind of some of the museum collections that we have, like the fire department museum and the police department museum. And so there's currently nothing in the other category, but should another person in the future be inventorying things, we are going to leave that category in there because it's a nice way to prioritize that for discussion and review in the future. In terms of all of the artwork, we've got it organized records by ward. So this is not ordered here by which has the most, but as you can clearly see, Ward 1 has by far more artwork in it, which makes sense since the city center is there. I also will say that I think that number is somewhat inflated, not artificially, but because within City Hall, there are a lot of photographs, a lot of prints. And so there are quite a few records for those in here because our collection category had not been created yet at the time. But I still think it merited because each individual one, in some cases, a frame might be cracked or was yellowing. And so I think it's good to still have those individual records. The ward with the least amount of artwork was Ward 2. Part of that is because over the entire course of developing this inventory, Patterson Park was demoed and closed. I know it will be reopening soon, and I'm sure that will help bump those numbers back up once we see some of the artwork that is inside. But it still represents the smallest amount. Ward 7, I believe, then being the next smallest in terms of total number of artworks.
Mac,
Mhm.
really quick, for Ward 2, since Patterson was torn down and you may not have had the ability to go in and all of that and see what they have or what they're going to redo, would this still be, I understand like we're pretty much at the end, but would you be able to go into Patterson Park and review any of their data of art and add it to this?
Yeah,
your
I think
contract?
I think for that particular case, that's totally fine. Once it's open and we can go in, as long as we still have access to the where we're collecting the data, we can just talk to Darren and Alex and see if we've already given all the data, if we need to do it again, we can talk through that. I don't have a problem with that.
So I was a part of the whole community center upgrade and renovation project from the initial signage of it. I may be able to get existing photos if that would help, and then construction photos as well. But I'm just offering that up.
Yeah, and I'll
I
also ask Michelle DiFiore if she has any knowledge of any art.
Michelle was there too. Yep.
Yeah.
She ran it. Mm-hmm.
Megan, you have a comment?
Yeah, this is me not knowing the timelines. Was Reservoir Park already torn down around that same time that you guys were inventorying, or were you able to get Reservoir Park in Ward 10 before it was down?
We were not able to get everything from Reservoir Park, particularly in the interior. We talked to Councilman Connor, and we were able to salvage all of the murals that had been installed on the exterior. However, the way that this inventory is constructed, we do try to capture the data within the context in which we find it. So as an example, in Firestone Park, there's one of our destination Akron benches is there. It's blue. It's currently being restored with a neighborhood partnership grant. And so it is not one of our featured pieces on here because it wasn't in the best condition at the time and because it's not currently on site. And so to Eric's point, some of the others, I think it makes sense to kind of renew this report to an extent, year to year, and to update it because personally, I like to have all of the information in context in which people would expect to find it. So if it's something that's in storage right now, I wouldn't want to necessarily imply that it is on the side of a building or might be publicly accessible if it's not. But we could inventory it and say it's in storage. Jay, did you have a question?
Yes, I think you kind of just answered that question. I know since we will have access on, murals and stuff that has been vandalized or damaged. Say if we fix it through some kind of, if we refix it, would it be like a before and after thing where it's like, okay, this used to be here, but now we have this here? Like, have we considered that?
Yeah, that's something we talked about with the IT and GIS department, having a timeline for when records get collected. And so long term, there could be a way to scroll and see how the art landscape has expanded and also how the condition of the arts landscape has improved. Even most exciting, perhaps, with all of that is that that data can also be correlated or compared to layers of like health metrics, all kinds of other things that could show, to Summer's point, about how art may be contributing towards improving quality of life across different wards and sectors of the community.
That's pretty cool. I'm really excited about it. I think that's going to be a really nice touch.
Mac, I have one comment. And it's kind of a nitpicky thing, but 1 in 8 men are colorblind. And I think red-green color blindness is like the most common kind of color blindness. So for any report or anything that we're going to share, just for an accessibility purpose, it'd be really nice if the graphics like avoided using red and green for anything showing like big splits. That's just that's my only comment.
It's a great point.
You guys are an intelligent bunch of people. Like, you guys are smart. Thank you for that, Andy. Because oftentimes we tend to forget about the ones that, and I don't want to say forget. Sometimes it's just not in the forefront. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, there are some
got
ADA
yelled at
compliant
in grad
screeners.
school, so they used to yell at us.
So
Got
you're
yelled at.
never gonna forget it. There are
Yeah, pretty
some screeners that we can send this through to make sure it's as ADA compliant as we can make it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
of
too
course.
bad because I was gonna play a joke on my son-in-law, so because he's colorblind. But you just took it out. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Let's see. Among other things, we want to share that 59.72% of the art and cultural artifacts that we found did not have signage or a label on it. Hence, us doing a whole lot of desk research to try to identify them. Because sometimes you find you might find an artist signature or the last name or something written on the side. So we have been able to do some work to fill in some of those gaps. That work could be used to add signage to a lot of these pieces in the future. I think what people will find in the inventory is that there is more information about the artwork than there is on the sites where you would go to and visit the artwork. And in terms of like some of the additional detail that we're finding here, one of the points I was making here was that although 433 records do not have a sign or label, 73 of the pieces that were inventoried, since they are memorials, we do count them as like having a sign or label because they do have informational signage on them. So if you subtract those from the total, it means that a more accurate representation would be that 66.41% of the items in Akron do not include informational signage, if that makes sense, when you're thinking of sculpture and paintings and murals and things of that nature. The materials is more just kind of a word cloud, but that's the best way to represent it here. But within the specific records in the inventory, those materials go into more detail so people can see exactly how things are constructed. And to the point that I think, Andy, you had made initially early on, there is some consistency of terminology and just typing. Like in the beginning, we use some capitals on some things and some things lowercase, and some things had a period after them, which makes them register differently in the word cloud. So we just want to make sure that there's some consistency moving forward. I've shared some of this with you in a previous presentation, but we still are finding that the majority of the artwork in Akron is in a neutral to poor condition. However, the reasons for a lot of that, when looking into the data, a lot of it just has to do with the artwork being dirty, or in some cases, photographs that are like yellowing. So in terms of like the bits that say like how much was damaged that's there, even though pieces may be damaged, sometimes the scale of a piece, like for example, the Bowery parking deck That's a really, really large mural. It is damaged, but based on the scale of it, it's not necessarily nearly as noticeable as you might. So of all of the pieces that were damaged, only 19 of them were deemed unfit for display. And that's based on their current condition. And of those condition types, this is not a binary evaluation. This is one where some things can have multiple condition types simultaneously. So something can be dirty, faded, and scraped at the same time. But it shows you that really the most prevalent problem in public art and is just that a lot of it is dirty. You know, it could just be spray from a lawnmower. You know, maybe it hasn't been washed in a while or cleaned. And so in many cases, simply cleaning the piece of artwork, or in the case of things that are faded, such as a lot of photographs that were faded, reprinting some of those would immediately resolve these issues and improve the aesthetic experience of the artwork and of the place in which it's located. Of the maintenance notes, you can kind of see here, yellowing was one of the more prevalent things that we saw. A lot of that is from printed materials and UV exposure. For example, a lot of the Bruce Ford photographs that are in City Hall have been there for more than 35 years. That's a great duration to get out of those photographs, but it I think would really improve the working environment if some of those could be reprinted, you know, in the future or put behind UV protective glass. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, sorry, some of these are repeats of those pages. In terms of the individual ward reports, we're about halfway through this right now, but we have all of this data, so we can take it through. And this is basically how we were going to present it. We were thinking that it would be nice if this was something that you yourselves could hand off to council members as just a quick 2 or 3 page summary report based on your findings here. So at the top level, it has the number of records of public art and cultural artifacts that are in that ward with a breakdown of the specific number of pieces of each type, and then what the condition of that work is. And what we will then go into here is also, we can do the highlight of the key featured ones that we want to spotlight, but also if there are any in the specific ward that require more immediate attention. That might be something that might be for yourselves to have as an aggregate rather than on a ward by ward basis. So in terms of, and you can see there's a little note about the Patterson Park Recreation Center for Ward 2 here. You know, Ward 3 is a little more comprehensive. In terms of giving you this data, is this kind of what you had in mind in terms of knowing the number of paintings and sculptures that you were looking for in each ward?
In my mind, this is probably more detailed than I think we could have asked for. This is very nice.
We like to hit you over the head with it, and then you can take stuff out. Overwhelming is a good thing sometimes.
And I will say you will have access, I believe, to all of the filters from the actual survey itself through the GIS department. So here, let me just stop sharing this for a second. So if at some point you wanted to go through and take a look at, let's see, where's my share again? Okay. If you wanted to go through and analyze any of the data for any of the artwork, you can look at it through the aggregate, which is here, or you can add a filter. So if I just wanted to look at the artwork that is in, say, Ward 8, basically all of the analytics tally up for you immediately. So you can see there are 51 records in Ward 8, represents 7.04% of the total. It filters in for you the imagery, the type of artwork that is there, accessibility, pretty much all of the data that has been captured so far, at least from a graphing standpoint. Sorry, and yeah, we do have measurements for everything too. Talk about getting into granular details. I don't think necessarily the public needs to know all of that, but that's helpful when you're trying to assess like how much paint to order, or maybe how big a sculpture might be. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Our goal is following today's meeting to send you the full comprehensive report, to also send the link to the updated application so that you can start to explore and play around with that yourselves. We can make we'll make those edits that we've discussed here, but if you have additional ones that you come up with while you're exploring it, do let us know. And once those are confirmed and ready, we can share the embed link so that you can put that directly into your website.
Thanks, Mac. Does anyone have any questions? Jessica, Megan, Eric, Roberta, Larissa, before Mac and Elise go, especially since this might be one of the final times they're presenting, at least for now. So I'm sure we'll see them back in the future for something or another because they're always around.
I just really wanted to thank them for all the work that they have done. This is marvelous. I mean, I know it was time consuming and they did a great job. Thank you so much, both of them. Yeah.
Thank you, Roberta. That's very kind.
Thanks, Roberta.
Yeah.
I would say one thing is I would like to get this in front of the mayor to have an opportunity to review before we actually push this out, to the community. One thing we do want to do is be mindful, that this is under his leadership. And so we should definitely get his thoughts and his views on this as well. So we can set up a time to maybe do a Zoom or maybe do something in person. I'm not sure which meeting we would do, but I would definitely like to get something within the next week or two to show the mayor. Also, we had talked about like the GIS Mac a little bit. What are your, far as you said that you guys could do that too, or is that built into this contract as far as helping with the GIS? Or is this what you've done so far to go into the GIS system?
I think, if I understand correctly, I think our project, this phase of the project ends with us completing and sharing the report and providing you with the embeddable story map or or application for your website. And then like any ongoing work is something we're happy to discuss.
Well, one other piece that is not included in that list was giving all of the data to the GIS department. That is also in this contract. So
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
It's y'all's data eventually.
Okay.
What, Summer, I was on a whole different wavelength. You were saying with the mayor, but I was thinking that he was already aware of it. My thing is to put it in front of all the city council people so that they will be in their own ward and starting to see how they want to bring people together to start seeing what this, what's there and what they can do and how they want to be able to push it out. I think that would be something for them to be creative and then for them to bring in their business leaders and whoever people in their wards to try to be able to support. And I think that would be nice for them to start looking too, is how they will be able to support and help us and help and maintain a lot of those pieces and what they want their ward to look like. So think about it when you're looking at, they said, was Ward 2 that had the least amount? So you can get that ward, that council person in that ward to say, okay, what business and people that you can have that you can help support this project, so it won't just be on the commission that's starting to look at how we can get more public art there, but having them also to partner with us to try to see how we can get some of those dollars in from different areas. Because like we said before, the art is just not there for people to look at. If it's going to be there to help reduce crime and everything else, we can be able to pitch it that way so they can start looking to see how they can be able to partner. And not only that, start looking at things like the schools, what's in the schools and how they can be able to support and make that a part, and start looking at things of that nature. Because for me being in the school, it'd be nice for me to know which one is close by. So my art teachers can be, my photographer students can go there and take pictures that can be able to help in those aspects. But being able to have, but at least starting with the wards, and then you can start with the schools that's in that area and starting to see how we can be able to partner and have those schools to be able to support the project that we can do, because we can probably find funding in different perspectives or angles to see how we can get those funding. So we might have fundings to be able to have, how can students be a process and then have it, or how can business people within your ward can be also being an asset for us to be able to partner with.
That sounds amazing. I love the way you think. Definitely, we can get it in front of mayor, definitely get it in front of council. And I would probably recommend maybe getting this in front of like one of the committees at the school board, or, you know, on that part. Mac and Alyssa, would that be part of training, like the mayor and city council? Or is that a whole different piece?
I think that probably,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean,
Put us
it's a
on
slightly
mute, talk about it, and then let us know.
it's a slightly different piece, but I think it's really important to us that the rollout of this is embraced and understood by as many people as possible. So we certainly want to help with that to whatever degree is necessary. I think the additional proposal that we shared for expanding the public art inventory would also accommodate a lot of that. But just so the rest of you know, if you haven't reviewed it yet, part of the role of that that proposal was also to allot for time to add things that maybe are privately owned. So because there are some things on this map that that we're familiar with seeing, but are not actually necessarily featured in the map. So art that might be at Akron Public Schools buildings or in the library. I think we talked about the pieces that are at Lock 3 as well. Those aren't city owned or fully city funded, as we understood, and the Civic Theater said it was entirely their responsibility. So they're not currently part of this, but we think it makes sense for this inventory to grow and to really represent the totality of Akron's landscape. And to the point you were making, Larissa, it becomes really apparent when you start to look at some of the ward maps where the gaps are, particularly when it comes to like things that make you feel welcome in Akron. We do have 4 sculptures in the kind of geographic north, south, east, and west of Akron that kind of welcome you as you get to the city border. But there are so many other ways to get into Akron. And a lot of the fringe areas around the city limits do not have public art anywhere near them. And so things like that could certainly be a great opportunity for like future utility box wraps or other projects you might want to pursue.
Just something I noticed. Sorry, Andy. Yeah, I definitely agree with like the fringe boundaries, like that really up north. I don't know if it was High Hampton or the other one, but there was just nothing up there, and I'm just like, that's so surprising. I mean, I don't know if it's surprising, but I just like, I feel bad because that's you could come into Akron from those like northern, Cuyahoga County, so it's like we should have something up there, so yeah, thank you for bringing that up, and also thank you for bringing up art that's not on public land, because like the mural that I worked on East Exchange with Art Bomb, like that's on the side of a building that's owned by a business, but I'm just like, that's my favorite mural. Like
you're like, I did that. No, or like the new one that says North Hill in North Hill. That's on at the side of a building. So while it's very public facing, it is not owned by the city on city property or any of that. So there's a lot of ways that you can grow and expand this for sure. We're very grateful to be a part of this as you're, kind of building it into what it could be. So we're happy to be a part of it.
I think too, there's a teaching tool.
Yeah.
So a lot of people won't know the difference. So that's going to be the thing too, because that's going to be one of the first things they probably put in the email, where some are saying for us to be able to have them to be able to give us comments. It's like, what about this piece of art? And that's going to be where then, as a commission, we will need to be able to educate the community too. To just say this is not it's a piece of art in your area, but it's just not a piece of public art. And then we're just saying how we want to, and that'd be something too. How for commissioners, not commissioners, for how city council to be able to help. This was said to be able to help us in this endeavor to say, okay, you have about, let's say, 200 pieces that we can put in there, but how can we, we need your support to be able to get it, accounted for.
Yeah, I will say that the North Hill mural that Elise was mentioning, we did actually capture that in the inventory. However, it's not listed as a city-owned piece. And that was something, Larissa, I don't think you remember of the commission when we first started with the proposal and the project. We did scope this out with the goal of including everything in Akron. It was just beyond the budgeting capacity, but we're excited about the prospect for this to feature everything, and perhaps that's something that can just be easily filtered in the future, and would be part of the all category that people can
So
see.
I have a question, Summer, Andy. So will the traffic signal boxes become a part of this?
Yeah. Once they're
Yes,
up, we'll capture the records for them and send them to the GIS team. They'll get them up, or however they get sent. We'll get the data. I need to get the data model either from GIS or from Mac. Once we have that, we can literally just throw them like records in a spreadsheet and hand them to GIS, and they can get them uploaded to the map as points. In terms of having them featured, I think that's a good question. I think a really good question is whether we should take the traffic box points, at least some of them that we want to feature, and get them in those 50 featured points on the map on the website. That way people can see them. Yeah. So.
But Andy,
Not the one that says Chapel Hill, that's in North Hill, that's in West Akron, whatever, which one we are.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was driving down Home Avenue. I was like, oh, it could have went right here, right when you got the expressway, like going in. Like that's a perfect spot because that's going into the Chapel Hill area. So I was like,
So this database is Akron based, not Summit County.
It's Akron, not
Okay, I was just making sure because this wonderful artist named Jessica Travis did this beautiful piece at the Akron Canton Airport, and I was just wondering where she was gonna fit in that. But it's
wow,
okay.
the
I guess I understand it.
straight up.
I'm obsessed with you, Jay. I'm obsessed.
People need to see it, right? They need to know. I did this inspired by Akron. I want people to see it and know that, I thought of you guys. But I get it. We'll expand later. We'll expand later.
Yeah, there's the commissioner pages on the website. Maybe we can get a photo of that one from the airport and put it at the bottom of your commissioner page or something.
The website, you are an Akron person.
I know Maxwell. Anybody see it? This is a beautiful piece of art. Took me a whole month to do that. I'm just saying.
We could showcase it, but you just cannot be paid for it because you're a commissioner. Okay.
Well, you want to back up now, Jay? You want to back that out now, Jay?
Nope. It's not about the money, Eric. It's about, my artistic vision and me expanding myself as an artist that I am, and letting everybody know I'm here. This is all about.
Well, I'm your agent, and it's about the money.
As am I, and I agree with Eric.
Yeah. In terms of we did look at, or at least I mentioned before we brought you guys on, Mac and Elise, we looked at the different funding options, and I think it's just something to talk about as a commission. Just to be completely frank and transparent with you, we need some sort of like public funding structure, or the city needs to agree to fund some of this ongoing work if it's going to happen. And there needs to be discussions about what we're looking for, the format of that, the scope, etc. And so the contract's useful, but we need to decide on the scope, what work needs to be done, and then assess that against the contract the contract you guys provided for ongoing services or retainer. And so there's just a bunch of talks that need to happen before we can really reply to that. Just to level set, we don't know when the timeline would be on that. We are talking to the mayor actively. We talked to the mayor today, but we don't know anything yet, basically.
Yeah.
So
totally understandable.
We don't have anything to answer you guys with yet at this point. We don't know how that would work in terms of whether there needs to be an open selection process for work, or how any of this would work, if there's an ongoing relationship, if that's fine. You understand. We just have to.
Totally. We are here when you're ready to cross that bridge. We know that this is, new news for this commission. So however it goes down the path, and we're here if you need us.
Awesome. We really appreciate it. I'll be reaching out to
finishing this out, though. To be honest, Andy, I know we talked earlier, but we are so far into this. They should, if we get it, they should just continue and finish. Like,
I think there
hands
would be
down.
like a rework expense to have another person work on it.
Yeah, we're talking
Because of
about.
understanding the model. But yeah,
They need to
That's why I
go.
think
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
important to present this in front of the mayor. So,
Yes.
so that, I mean, we can talk about it as much and, as we want. And, I can walk up and down the stairs and say, hey, guess what we're doing? We're going to be, in the United States, have this first interactive inventory and be so excited about it. But if some people don't see it visually, then I mean, I can sell water to a fish. Like, I'm a great salesperson, but sometimes they still want to see something, right? So I'll get with you two and see what we can get on the mayor's calendar.
That sounds great. And we'll keep plugging away on finalizing the presentation, and it'll be ready when you're ready for us to send it to you.
In
Sure,
summer, I
thank
would
you.
like to be in that meeting as well, that presentation.
Maybe.
No, there is no maybe.
Yeah, Mac and Elise, I'll be reaching out to come visit your new place since I've
Of
walked
course.
by so many times without walking in. I don't say I didn't know if I
Stalker.
was allowed or not, but I walk by and I do see it. I go to Chameleon Cafe for lunch,
You're
like
allowed to
probably
wave.
a few times a week.
You can wave.
So
I've actually tried to chase you down a couple times, Andy.
Wait, really?
There may have been once or twice where I kind of hollered your name from behind, but I don't think you heard me. And
So if I was walking with Matt, my buddy, because
yeah,
I worked then I probably wasn't hearing you or think I was probably talking. So
no worries, it was all okay. I never really had anything urgent, and besides, we've been moving for like the past year and a half. So
I saw when you guys were moving before you posted. I was excited about that. So yeah, I'll stop back down. One, because I want to get the data model from you guys so we can have that as a commission understand before even we have access to the database. And then two, just to see your new space. So hopefully you'll hear
Sure.
from me soon.
Well, if that's all you guys need from us, we will leave you to it. We're here if you
Thank
need
you,
us.
This is
Thank
amazing.
Thank you.
Y'all did
Thank you
excellent.
guys.
Thank
This has been
you.
so fun.
All
Mhm.
right, thanks, Mac and
Incredible
Elise.
job.
Yes.
Incredible job.
Bye, everyone.
Yes, bye.
Bye-bye.
This is what we've worked so hard for since 2000. So I think Alyssa and John are two of the original commissioners. And when we took on this commission, we didn't have a clue of how we were going to get all of this moving. And we talked for about, 3.5 years. And then last year, we were really able to get this art inventory completed. So we've pretty much tackled the top 3 goals of the cultural plan. So that's exciting. This is commendable. With also not a whole lot of resource, just the $100,000 that we received from the donor. Thank you all. I'm not saying this because this is not the end. We still have more work to do, but I just wanted to thank you all for just sticking in with me and going through this process. This was all new to me too. 2020, I'm like, sure, I'll do this. Didn't have a clue, but being able to do this with you guys is such an honor. So thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. So for the next thing on the agenda, Summer, I can review stuff with the mayor, right? Nothing's confidential, right? This part of the discussion we had today in terms of like what we're expecting in terms of conversation.
Yeah.
All right. So
How
basically,
about Andy?
yeah,
Andy, bullet points. We got 10 minutes.
exactly. Yeah, I got you on that. So basically, the number one thing that we need in order to, and we met with the mayor today, but I'm just going to jump right into the deliverables we need to get in order to get things done. So the main things we really need to get are we need to review the work plan that I sent out in January, the proposed one. John and everyone else made good points. One, when I presented that, but also afterwards, that we're likely not going to have the capacity to do all the things that are in that work plan. I'll say from the discussion we had with Shamus that the things that the most interest there was things like the local mural projects and the maintenance. Those are the things that we need to cover. So those are going to be the top 2 priorities. But what I need from all of the commissioners is I need you all to review the work plan and I will resend it out again. And there's some highlighted items on there. And I don't expect that we'll be able to get all these things done. There's things on there like a potential artist in residence program. There's other programming that we could come up with. There's things about like a public event. These are just ideas. What we need is either new ideas, which are things that we think could feasibly be funded, and the kind of funding that needs to go with them. I also put on projected funding for a second set of traffic boxes. I put on projected funding for murals. If you disagree with the amount that I projected for producing the murals, or if you have expertise to put into how much we should be asking to be able to provide to an artist lump sum to prepare a mural, please look at that expense. I put in 25K. Whatever you think's reasonable to do 1 or 2 large murals for a year, probably. Please take a look. Please give me feedback and comments on what we think is like feasible to do in terms of that work plan, because what we need to provide is the actual scope of what we want to try to request funding for, to fund for the commission. And something to consider is that these are things that we might want to try to fund every year from the general fund on an ongoing basis. So we need to select things that we're going to have capacity for, and we all need to decide that we're going to, if we get this funds, we're going to use them. We're going to do these projects. We're going to use the database, and we're going to get these things done. So let's not select more than we actually have capacity for. Let's select a few key items, noting that the main interest was in murals and maintenance. And maybe, including that maintenance fee, maybe what we want to do is we also want to request funds for the GIS database or something along those lines, or just ask about it. Maybe we need to ask them about how that could be funded in or outside of commission funding, or however that's allocated. Right. So maybe they want us to curate RFPs for that, right? Because it could be like a commission activity. We need to discuss those things, whatever. But deliverables, review the work plan if you could, all the highlighted items, what do you think makes sense, new ideas of what we could use funding for. We need to reduce the scope of what was in the work plan, get hard numbers that we think we could leverage for funding, and get that to the mayor so that they can talk to the finance department and see if we could get funding. That's the most important thing right now in terms of like longevity of the commission and being able to do things going into the future without depending on grant funding and having public funding, knowing that we're not going to get funding from the TIF for the next several years or potentially much at all. So,
got a question for you, Andy.
Sure.
One of the things I was looking at is your balance for 2025. Coming into 2025, are we still at the 19,163?
It might be slightly less than that. There have been a few expenses, and Summer would be able to speak to that. Summer, you're on mute if you're talking, so you know. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So far we have spent, and this I'm saying we have spent, which I'm including full payment to RX Love, and I'm including full payment to Central Graphics because those are promises to pay. We have spent $80,926.73. That also includes the $90 to our person who did the minutes for 3 months.
Yeah.
So we are looking at a balance of $19,073.27.
All right. So, Larissa, it's about the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andy, did you want us to limit to maybe the top 5 or top 3, or
I would argue maybe
is there
the
a
top
number?
I would say limit to the top 2 or 3. Like for example, the event on there, like potentially the bicentennial event, let's scrap that. Like let's ask for the things that are like we think we could argue for funding for. So like if because I don't know, Robert, if you remember today, he said he was interested in like the murals, for example, and then we argued that
Use.
maintenance was the next important option. And then like the traffic boxes, we already know like a set price on those things. Why not just ask for those 3 things, right? So that's my vote already, is let's do a second round of the traffic boxes to get more art in the public infrastructure. Let's do 2 large murals and determine a lump sum cost we could split in half or, in 2, close amounts and distribute to 2 different artists to do murals in 2 different wards based off an analysis of the public art database. And let's, think about that. And then maybe like money for maintenance. Then let's also ask a question about like the GIS database. But if there's additional things, or if you see differences in that, or, if you disagree with the amounts for the funding, or, if you have a different idea, we need participation from all the commissioners and feedback and expertise from all the commissioners involved in this before we go make this ask. So.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Do you know that the I think third round of the Arts Now, Arts Forward is out, and that is till April 1st. Do we have any wants to apply for that grant?
I don't have time to write anything till after May if I touched anything, so I don't.
I can look
I
into
was
it.
saying, like, I would write it if that's the commission all agrees that this is something that we want to at least try for funding. I don't mind. I've been through it before, and I got my grant from it, so I don't mind writing it and send it to somebody to proofread it and make sure that it sounds good. But I just want to I want to see where we interested into trying putting our hat in there.
I would say yes. All grants. I look for grants, so that's something I can work with you on. And we can
I'm in the
definitely get
proofread.
some money. Huh?
I said I'm in the proofread for sure.
I would say if
All
you're
right,
willing to take
perfect.
accountability for the capacity of it as well and help out with some of the planning around that, if it involves commission activities, we all can approve on a meeting. But if you can help with some of the anything external to whatever project you're proposing to do with the grant, then that helps a lot. If bring it up in terms of capacity. So
Yeah,
And also
perfect. And
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so our goal would be to do more traffic box signals, right? If I apply for that grant, let's ask for more funding so we can do that and incorporate the kids. Isn't our goal to do more children focused kind of art? Okay, I'll just making sure. All right, that's all.
Another thing that the mayor had mentioned was having some in-person meetings, not doing like a hybrid, some in person. We could do some on Zoom. City council, their chambers now have like a full new system to also do some hybrids if you could not make it in person. But we do need to try to get some in-person meetings. I would say maybe a few summer months, some in the fall. I'll reach out to you all through an email to see what works best for everyone, if that's okay.
yeah, and I think with all the stuff that we have to do in terms of deliverables, it might make sense to like table making any like official decisions on being hybrid or remote until maybe the next meeting. But that's my opinion. I don't know. I'm okay with going in person. Personally, I don't really mind, but I know that doesn't always work for everybody. So
Yeah,
I like to see everyone.
I travel a lot, as everyone
Yeah.
knows. So, and that's why when he was stating in person, I didn't speak up at all because, again, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, there's
But
a
I would
chance that
try
I'll
if
be,
I'm in town.
as well in a different country or something, and I'll have to wake up at like 2 a.m. But while I'm here, I could probably make it. So
Yeah, if I'm in the office, I can definitely make it, which is kind of rare. So, like today is rare.
And again, we can have some hybrid too, where some people are remote and some are in person. But as long as
Yeah.
we're fulfilling the wishes of the mayor of what he requested, I think we need to do that.
Tag, all of y'all are it. I'm hybrid.
Unless you're here, and I can find out if you're in Akron.
Just because my counterpart is over here
Doesn't
listening to
matter.
my
I don't have to
meeting.
have your
Summer, is
counterpart.
that a
I got
threat?
Hey,
That's
leave her out of it.
I have other people. It's okay. It's okay.
No, you don't. No,
You don't
you
know
don't.
everything.
No, you don't.
all right. Well,
All right, I gotta
does
jump
anyone
off.
else? Does anyone else have any other comments before we end the meeting? Summer, were there any public comments before we end the
No
meeting?
public comment.
Any
No.
events that anyone wants to share before we end the meeting?
Not an event, but just so you know, so like me and Summer are kind of sort of in talks about getting an intern for APAC so we can have someone update the website, hopefully be a scribe, a secretary for the meetings. Who knows what it's going to look like, but so that's just something through my work I have capacity to get interns from the University of Akron, so I just want everyone to know that that's a thing that we're kind of working on in the background. So
And also, if that's something we want to do, that's about 1,500. Was it 1,500 now? It used to be 1,050.
It used to be 1,000. It used to be 1,200. Yeah, we trying to meet the rising cost of living.
I'm also going to start going through and auditing the website materials and other things, but no changes on any sort of content without running anything by the commission too. But all this is probably for future months. But it's something I'm also looking at. So yeah, I guess with that, if there's no other comments, then we can adjourn the March 12th, 2025 Akron Public Art Commission meeting. We'll see about getting minutes prepared for the January meeting and this meeting. We'll see you guys the second Wednesday of next month.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Have a good weekend.